The following podcast is a production of University Counseling Services through California State University Northridge. Kaysen Rempel is a doctoral psychology intern for the institution's APA-accredited internship in health services psychology. Every Gamer Has a Voice is a podcast hosted by a mental health professional that's designed to create discussions about discrimination in gaming experienced by those belonging to underrepresented identities. Through sharing personal experiences as well as disseminating research, this podcast is aimed to shine a light on this type of discrimination while also helping gamers and minority groups feel validated and educated on how they can protect their mental health.
Yes. Okay, so hello everyone. We have our first guest here today. HolyShiftKid, aka Ryan, is a top 500 support player who's been the rank 1 Brigitte player in the North American servers on multiple occasions throughout Overwatch 1 and 2. He is a Overwatch content creator who has 21,000 subscribers on YouTube with a total of over 4 million views and over 11,000 followers on Twitch. So thank you so much, Ryan, again, for joining me here today.
Yay. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited for you.
Thank you so much. Yes. And we were talking a little off the recording, but to get into the questions about some of the topics that my podcast is aiming to target, I want to ask you, just with your history of streaming and also just playing Overwatch competitively, what kind of interactions or patterns have you noticed in gaming or streaming spaces when it comes to how people are treated?
Right. So, firstly, make sure you're recording and have the audio. Make sure everything's working.
Yes,
The bars are bouncing.
I'm seeing the bars. We're both in the yellow zone.
Okay, yeah. Just wanted to make sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. So, in terms of the interactions, I mean, I've been gaming forever. I think kind of the beginning of my gaming era was right around when I was 13, 14. It started with kind of Call of Duty and like Black Ops 2, Destiny 1, and then it kind of kept going with different games until I landed on Overwatch, and that's kind of been my one main game really almost for the past 10 years. I feel like especially Overwatch is almost has like a specific kind of audience that is different from everyone else, but when you get into those really like rough kind of like a League of Legends game, a Call of Duty, it's kind of seen as this like frat bro, like this is for the boys community where things are taken very unseriously and like jokes that may hurt certain types of people get thrown around all kind of willy-nilly. And being in these spaces, I've just seen and heard them all. People are very fast just to be able to point fingers at other people. It's so easy, I think, in games that are like online competitive games when things are out of your control. You want to try to take control back of the situation. So the first thing you do is you blame someone else. So people come online and they'll slur you and they'll say whatever it wants to make them feel like they maybe have gotten some use out of their time. So I feel like in Overwatch specifically, that doesn't happen as much. I don't know why it's that specific game. It just like may be a little bit more of a brighter kind of world and universe that the Overwatch people as a whole feel like are nicer, even though there still will be angry people from time to time. But I think kind of the interactions, and I think it's gotten better over time too, but it kind of still has that underlining hint of like, this is a locker room talk, very frat boy kind of talk with how video games are played, especially with voice chat.
Yes, and I think so. It sounds like you always gravitated towards those competitive games since you were young.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing I notice about Overwatch 2 compared to the other competitive ones is like things like Destiny or Call of Duty is very much like point and shoot, whereas Overwatch, there's a lot more diversity like in the hero kits. I mean, like
Right.
Mercy, for example, you can go several games without once ever shooting someone. And I think that might have something to do with it, of there might just be a more like innate acknowledgement that different people have different skill sets. But that's not always the case. I think yeah, it's like a defense mechanism kicks in sometimes. If someone's
Yeah.
losing, it's way quicker to say, well, which one of these four teammates is doing bad instead of
Right.
looking within. Yeah. How do you think that affects like improvement in players?
I think it kind of builds anxiety. I think something we were just talking about this off camera, how I'm dealing with kind of my own gaming thing. I mean, I just have so much anxiety, not because of my performance, I think, but because what other people will think about my performance, if that makes sense. Like looking from their perspective, what will they think if I do a bad play or if I lose? Like it feels like there always will be someone waiting in the chat to be like, "You're trash. Get off this character," or like something. So I think that's kind of where that stands. Is like they're in terms of getting better, almost sometimes trying to communicate and have these chats open makes it worse.
Yeah, and when you say chats, are you more talking about your Twitch chat or the Overwatch match chat?
No, I think that's more the Overwatch match chat, the actual in-game chat. I feel like the streaming perspective of things never comes back negative because those people are there to like watch me and they want to be with me in this era versus like these people in the Overwatch game were forced to beat my teammates. So sometimes they're like, "Who are you? You're terrible." So I think it's more the in-game chats usually that where you have the issues.
Right. Especially, and I also think in my experience, it is a bit hero specific too. Like people are so quick to say swap rig, but I don't know if I've ever heard someone say like swap Kiri or something like that. But I don't know. Is that something
Right.
you agree with? You have more.
I think a little bit that doesn't necessarily have to come down to who's playing the character. I think it's more of like what we think the meta is. You know, if you see the pros playing these characters, like you're more likely to know that they're probably going to be better off. I think that's a niche kind of scenario with different types of characters, but for sure that could definitely happen.
But that is a really important thing you're hitting on of like having that thought of what are other people going to say is like a stressful thought to have, and it can kind of get in your
Right.
head during the game.
Right, like you can't it's kind of weird because sometimes I feel like nowadays we're playing these online games like not for fun. Like I was definitely playing the game for a sense of identity of like I want to feel like I'm good at life and living. So, you know, playing Overwatch and shutting other people down would make me feel better about myself. But it kind of goes in the opposite direction for me where if I'm the one getting shut down, then I feel way worse about myself. So it kind of like there's feels like there's extra pressures that can sometimes come from other people. And sometimes the best way to just enjoy the game is just to turn off all those in-game chats.
Yeah, definitely. I know you've advocated for that a lot of times to your
What?
chat. Yeah, of like this, they don't say useful things in voice chat, useful
It's
comms.
yeah, it's almost never positive to be in game chat because very rarely does communication actually become effective when you're working in these team environments. It's almost always used in a negative sense. It's never used to be like, let's make these call outs and let's set up the situation. It's more like, oh, the situation went badly. Now it's time to go yell at the people that I can so that, you know, you can try to gain some of that control back of the situation. So I've always been a huge advocate of just the easiest little like knock towards you is just to turn off the chats because if you throw it back in their face, then it's going to make it even worse and you're going to actually start playing worse, which I mean, if you want to win, like that's not really how you want to be taking that situation.
Yeah, it's like a lose lose to talk back,
Yeah,
to try and yeah.
it is.
And so talking about voice chat, because that is one of the more things I'm interested in, at least discussing. But what has been like your experience of either like witnessing or encountering um, like any sort of, I don't know, trash talk just based on someone's voice?
Right. I think I have actually do have some experience with this myself because I do have a very more like high-pitched voice, especially like when I was in like the Call of Duty era, like 13, 14 time, like people would actually think that I was a woman Like they wouldn't call me gay, they wouldn't call me a kid. Like they would think that I was a woman. So, sometimes that it didn't always translate to that being like you're a woman, get out of my game. It's sometimes just like had extra attention that was not really needed or wanted. But kind of my experience with all of that and Overwatch, that didn't happen too much, but especially with like Call of Duty, I mean, it just would bring extra attention to myself, which I think I almost enjoyed to a certain degree. But in terms of like actual people getting angry, I mean, it happens so often. Like something goes wrong, someone gets upset, and then someone either starts typing in the chat or they start talking out loud. You're trash. You're the worst person ever. Like, switch off this character. You're throwing my game away and like making us lose on purpose. What are you doing? I just think that always has been a thing and probably isn't going to be going away anytime soon.
Right. And when, whether it's text chat or voice chat, like from the second they type that, they've already like come to the conclusion. It's not like it's possible to convince them otherwise. So
Right.
anything you type or say, um, it's just like falling on deaf ears, kind of.
Interesting point there. Yeah. Could you explain that in like a different way there too? So like it's falling in deaf ears to like the players who are receiving it.
More so, it's falling on deaf ears to like the initial person who was like typing the trash talk. Of if they
Right.
say like if they say swap off brig, you're throwing, uninstall, like even if you carry, they're not gonna say like, oh, I was wrong. Or maybe that happens like one out of every like 100 trash talkers.
Right. I mean, I think that's definitely right. I just think people, they want to gain that traction because these games, they're so out of control. Like you don't know who's going to be on your team, you don't know who's going to be on their team. There's just so many factors that goes out the window, and I think that causes a lot of distress for people of like their expectations are that they're going to get good teammates and that you're going to play well and that means that you also win. But sometimes you could have god mode. I would say this a lot in streaming. Like you could have god mode, you could have hacks that make it so that you would never die and you would still lose the game because the circumstances was up against you. And I think that it just gets people angry if certain things happen. You're like, why? What's happening to me? Like, why? It's just easier to blame everyone else and to try to get something back out of it. And so it always forms with match chat, people being angry or typing.
You've mentioned to your viewers a lot of times that you've like encouraged them to not measure like a win or a loss with the result of a game.
Hmm.
How do you think like that, like changing almost like what defines a win or a loss of gameplay? How does that help?
Yeah. So my rule of thumb was always just to try to get some semblance of that control back was something that you could impact in the game. So this was not the win or loss because even the highest ranked players will lose games. Everyone loses games. And so you want to try to measure something that makes it feel like you're still making progress, but something that's completely within your control. So this would be like a specific example is like to maybe to not take so many deaths or have the least amount of deaths on your team or to have a certain amount of healing. That one's usually not great, but just an easy example to have a certain number or a certain thing that you can do, like that is completely in your control. And if you do that by the end of the game, then you made progress. I mean, you won the game yourself because it's kind of trying to protect your own mental about keeping that control in your power and like having the expectations of like, okay, I played well and I met my goal. There we go. And if you didn't meet that goal, it's not necessarily like a, oh, well, I'm worthless. It's like a, okay, we've got to do a little bit of work. Even if we did win the game, to be like, oh, wow, okay, yeah, I didn't actually make my mark. We can definitely be better next game.
Yes, I remember one of the I think it was a tweet you made or a DM you sent me, but it was like a game is either a W or an L or a win or a learn. you ate with that. That was so that was so that's just like such like a great perspective to have.
Right.
Yes. Okay, so I know we're kind of shifting from the topics of the questions. So
That's okay.
I'll jump into the next one because I think maybe we've touched a little on number two. But I do want to ask you what kind of things have helped you feel grounded or supported when you're part of these online gaming communities or as a streamer?
This may come as a shock, but something that I want to say is that, the Twitch chat is probably where your most supportive people are, because these are the people that have watched you, they like being around you, they want to spend time with you. And even when games are going bad and I feel bad about myself from the games in the past, the chats that would come in, they just wouldn't have much of an impact on me. Which sounds really bad because it's like these people are supporting you and they're giving you money and they're giving you their time, some of their most valuable resources. And for me to say that, they didn't really impact me in a positive way sometimes sounds bad. Like I'm very thankful that the everyone who watched me does watch me, but when things go bad, these little words on the screen kind of meant nothing to me. So, I mean, these are just, you kind of have to take it back to like, these are just pixels on a screen, and grounding yourself can be hard, especially when you cared as much as I did and how much of an identity I put into this, whether or not a win means I feel valued or a loss means that I'm invaluable and that I don't deserve to be living or loved, which is kind of drastic, but just the way that kind of my brain was, especially at the end of streaming. So grounding myself was really just getting off the game and just kind of slowing down my body, getting outside, taking some breaths outside, talking to someone on the phone. I mean, just like anything you can do to kind of keep yourself in the real world. Just like looking out the window, like these are just pixels on a screen. Like they don't tell you who you are or why you need to live, but it can get pretty messy with the headphones on. Your face is in the screen. Like it feels like you're in this world. It feels like there's nothing else out there. So sometimes it can get really scary like that. And even my body language when I play the game is crazy intense because I'm caring so much. I'm like so high strung. Like I'm so tense at every moment of the game. My like stomach is flexed inwards. I'm like like I'm taking shallow breaths, and then I'm like my body is telling my brain that I'm in danger, that I'm in like a scary situation, and like no wonder I would explode is because I'm like this very tight rubber band, and it would just snap, and then I'd blow up. So it's kind of like you just have to really turn it off, turn the screen off, and kind of get outside. You just have to do anything that kind of brings you back to real life, and that can be breathing, it can be calling someone, it can be going outside, taking a drink of water, or going and doing some physical movement.
That's a really important thing that you mentioned, and I think also just bringing in the expertise I have on psychology. Like, if you're, for example, working out and your heart's racing and you're feeling really amped, that makes sense because your body's expelling so much energy, you're getting a lot of movement in. But if your heart is racing and you're feeling amped, sitting at a desk, the body doesn't know what to do with that. Like it's a really confusing thing for it to feel, to be in like fight or flight while you're sitting at a desk. And to have that happen with a high amount of repetition can be taxing, really taxing on the body and mind.
Oh, absolutely. 1 billion%.
And I imagine also as a streamer, it might be a little harder to just like get up and stop an Overwatch session.
Yeah, I mean, I would always feel bad because I would like time out blocks of like, okay, let's stream for 3 hours, let's stream for 4 hours. And like 4 hours is even a long time, like to be sitting at a game. I mean, doing anything for 4 hours straight is like, geez, like let me take a break. So it can be a lot. And like I have like a light on me that's like in my face, and I get hot very easily. So in the summertime, like I'll start sweating too, and it's like, uh.
Yes, yeah. It's like it felt like more than just pixels on a screen when all of these things are piling up. It makes sense.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I know you talked about just this kind of need for self-care. I know what you've sometimes mentioned it to your viewers is, and also every piece of advice you've given, like I've received. I've watched all your streams. The after two losses, take a walk or take a break. That one
Right,
is
yeah.
really helpful.
Yeah.
What other self care things have you found that either work for yourself or work for other people?
Well, that was always my number one rule when I was trying to rank up, and like if you only want to win and like to get to a higher rank as fast as possible, you take a break after two losses because if you really care, those two losses like they they just get in your emotional brain. Like you're just going to be upset even if it's not like if you're not even consciously aware of it, like your body is subconsciously like taxed and you're kind of drained and you kind of lose that energy. And so just kind of taking any kind of steps away from the computer screen I think really help keep your energy in place, if that's even just going to like lay down. Or if it is like if you have a lot of anxious energy, like my heart is pounding the whole time that the game's going on, my stomach is so tense, I have to like remind myself to like relax my body in between times when like it doesn't matter what I'm doing. Like if I'm dead, I'll be watching what the game is doing and I'm still like freaking out because I'm like, oh, are we gonna win? It's like, well, it doesn't matter because I'm dead. I can't do anything. So you might as well relax your body a little bit. So 'cause sometimes just kind of calming your body down, relax your jaw, your shoulders, your stomach, or doing some push-ups, like get that nervous energy out, like give your body the movement that it's kind of wanting. Or just taking a breath and like going outside and just taking a taking steps away from the computer can help me.
I think that's very sage advice because, like you said, give the body the movement that it wants, or the movement that might make it feel a bit like an outlet of the energy, a
Right.
healthy expression of it. Yes. Okay.
Mm.
I know we're making our way down these questions. I really like the other, like the non-structured questions too that
Oh
are
yeah,
like
throw them all at me.
sprouting from this. So this one again, like maybe you've touched on it already, but what message or perspective would you want to share with others who are navigating gaming spaces right now? And maybe a addendum I'll tack on is others who are maybe from like underrepresented identities.
I think the perspective is that there is still like an overarching, I would say, in the games that we play, like these competitive multiplayer games, there's still that overarching like rule or like theme that this is like a boys space of locker room talk of being more of a frat boy thing. So sometimes that like I think that makes men that fit into that notion like very easy and they like will never second guess like talking or typing because it's just like, oh, it's another one of the boys. Like you fit into that thing where someone like me, who I sound different than a normal frat guy would talk or someone in the locker room. So that kind of adds perspective of me being like, oh, I'm kind of scared to talk because what if they attack me rather than hear what I'm saying? So I think that perspective still comes from a lot of people right now, but I think the only way to kind of break those walls down is to punch them and to take a hammer to it and be like Miley Cyrus and take a wrecking ball to it. So you kind of have to talk and you kind of have to break those norms down to be like women should talk and gay and lesbian, whoever people that, if you just don't sound like a straight white guy, like I think talking breaks down those walls of like who you're expecting to hear on the other end and like kind of taking it for a normal stance. So I'd say that perspective is like don't be don't be scared to talk up if you have something important to say.
I think it's really valuable that you're acknowledging that this like the frat bros aren't going anywhere. Like it would
Right.
be like pretty naive to think like, oh, one day like it'll all be nice, but because that might not happen and it probably won't happen unless people are like kind of building voices for themselves. um it makes me think of, I remember I can't remember when this was or what clip, but ML7, who for those who may not know, is another Overwatch creator, content creator. I forget where he's from, but it's some European country, and he was saying that towards the beginning of his Overwatch journey, when he was using voice chat, a lot of people would make fun of him for his accent or the way he said certain words. And it sounded like he just kind of had to keep going with it and working through it, like kind of recognizing like the benefits or like the potential pros can outweigh the cons.
Right. And I mean, look at him now. He's like one of the biggest creators now. And
Right.
everyone loves to have him on your team.
Right, exactly. Yeah. At this point, no one would be making fun of his voice. They'd be like, oh, thank God we have ML7, probably.
Right.
If anything.
Exactly.